He won power by promising to sweep out corruption. 3 decades later, his critics say he built a system where the state itself became the gatekeeper of money, favors, and fear. Alexander Lukashenko came to office in 1994, a former collective farm director riding a wave of anger at chaos and graft. He was plain-spoken, tough, and he talked about order the way a factory foreman talks about a shift. People believed him. Belarus had suffered a painful transition after the Soviet collapse, and the man who vowed to clean up the mess seemed like a safe bet. Very quickly, he changed the rules. Referendums in 1995 and 1996 expanded presidential powers, bent the parliament to his will, and reshaped the constitution. Control was the point. Where other post-Soviet states let businessmen scoop up industry, Lukashenko kept the commanding heights in state hands and made sure those hands answered to him. That choice defined the money flow. In Belarus, the big earners weren't flashy private empires, but state behemoths. The refineries at Mosir and Novopolotsk, the potash mines under Soligorsk, the tractor and truck plants in Minsk. Add in cheap Russian oil and gas, and you had a model. The state bought energy at a discount, refined it, and sold the products abroad. For years, that spread was the lifeblood of the budget and a ready tool for patronage. Around the presidency, a parallel structure grew, the management of affairs of the president. It sounds dull, but it's powerful. It runs sanatoriums, hotels, farms, trading houses, and construction firms that don't answer to ordinary ministries. Investigations by independent reporters have long argued that this network acts like a private holding, with quiet accounts and few public audits, a convenient reservoir for projects the president favors. From early on, the border between the public purse and personal loyalty blurred. Businesses that stayed in line got contracts and tax breaks. Those that wavered found audits, raids, or criminal cases on their doorstep. The most lucrative games played out at scale. Potash was a crown jewel. Through Belarusian Potash Company, the state marketed one of the world's key fertilizers, often in tandem with Russia's Ural Kali. Prices were set in quiet rooms, and the rent was shared between two countries. That balance blew up in 2013 when the cartel fractured, prices fell, and Lukashenko's security services arrested the Russian partner's chief executive during a visit to Minsk. It was a reminder. These weren't normal markets. They were political fields where the president called the fouls. Wealth showed itself not in bank statements. Those were never published, but in infrastructure shaped around one man's tastes and power. There was the Drazdy compound, sealed off after the late 1990s repairs that pushed diplomats out and cleared the way for a presidential enclave. There were country residences, hunting grounds, motorcades, new ice arenas for a leader who loved hockey. Government jets ferried him across continents even as official salaries stayed modest on paper. The line between state property and personal privilege grew thin. Money also moved far from home. In the 2000s and 2010s, Lukashenko's envoys cut deals in Africa and the Middle East, promising tractors, potash, and engineering in exchange for concessions. One of his closest lieutenants, Viktor Shaman, turned up again and again as a fixer. An investigation by international journalists in 2021 alleged that Shaman and his son pursued gold and timber projects in Zimbabwe under the Belarusian flag, with private gain mixed into the official mission. Minsk brushed off the claims, but the pattern fit the era. Use the state brand to open doors, then keep the books close. Then came 2020. The disputed election and the brutal crackdown that followed brought waves of sanctions from Europe, the United States, and others. They didn't just target generals. They named companies, bankers, refiners, potash exporters, and the men said to be closest to the president. Western regulators described a system of favoritism and illicit finance. Some routes closed. New, murkier ones opened through Russia, the Caucasus, and the Gulf. Smuggling stories multiplied on Belarus's borders, especially cigarettes, from factories that churned out far more than the domestic market could smoke. European officials seized truckloads and accused Minsk of looking the other way, or worse. The government denied state involvement. But again, in a country where the state controls factories down to their logos, it was hard to imagine anything major happening without a nod from above. The cost shows up elsewhere. Workers at the tractor plant wait for delayed wages when a favored intermediary fails. Towns built around a single factory dry out as sanctions bite, and gray schemes misfire. Young people leave. Sovereignty itself feels thinner as dependence on Moscow deepens, because every subsidy comes with a string. That's the bargain hidden behind the slogans about order and stability. A state that owns everything can also quietly enrich a few, and when the bill arrives, the country pays it together.